The audience varied from teenagers to uncles in their 50s. Some men who looked like otaku came in groups, and there were also many people who came with lovers or family members. While Lost Fantasy has a 30-year history, and the series has sold over 100 million copies worldwide. And recently, it has succeeded in mobile and online successively, attracting a huge number of new users. The pool is wide, from core users who can be called dead people to light users who have just entered the world of Lost Fantasy. Still, there were a lot of otaku. Perhaps the most densely populated classical concert in the world? This was evident in product sales. In front of the merchandise counter located to the right of the ticket exchange, there was a long line that could not be seen. Program books, CDs, smartphone cases with characters and mugs were sold. Product sales were handled by OTK Games. To this end, limited edition products sold only in concert halls were also produced in small quantities. Senior Sanjiop could not hide his surprise. Hey, I don't think the sales of goods at idol concert halls will come out at this level. Really is an amazing fandom. Take-You said it was natural. Hey, we don't spare money to buy what we want. Even if you go hungry, you have to buy what you want. I nodded. In the past, I fell for your tricks and I was starving for a few days because I bought a game because I had to pay a lot for lunch. My friend, you still had fun thanks to me. That's right. It's not like Take-You who perfectly cleared the entire Lost Fantasy series, but I've done some famous things once. When you think about it, it's strange. Even when I went to buy game CDs with Take-You, I didn't know that I would directly invest in game companies and even sponsor performances. One sheep came with his father. Wearing a black dress that exposed one of his shoulders, he wore light makeup. Even though she did not decorate her face, her appearance was enough to attract the attention of those around her. He said to Take-You, "These days I'm also working hard on Lost Fantasy Online. So I'm really looking forward to today's performance as well." A positive response immediately came back. Oh, what kind of character are you? It's Archer. Archery. How are you going to raise it? Are you going to improve your archer skills and become a sniper? Or are you going to learn taming skills and go to the Beastmaster? Perhaps it was a difficult question for someone who had just started playing the game, so she was a little perplexed. What would be good? What do you think, Take-You? Then Take-You answered kindly. There are pros and cons to either way. For a long time, key explanations about Archer's characteristics, future development directions and tips for team play followed, and she nodded eagerly with a look like a Norwegian high school student listening to a lecture from an instructor of ILTA. It is not easy to take on a challenge in a field you are not familiar with. Eli looked at him and asked, "Did you say that Min Ha-young is coming too?" "Yes." Now he said he also told me that he was the vice president of the OTK company. When I heard it, it seems that I was caught off guard rather than told. So that was long enough. Since it was Take-Yu's first love, I wonder what kind of person she is. She claims that, in her own words, she just liked it. Isn't that your first love? After a while, Min Ha-young appeared. She's seen her pictures before, but this is the first time she's seen her in person. She wore large glasses and tied her hair together. Her clothes she is wearing are a pink Sprite-patterned ruffle dress. Although she wore high-heeled pumps, she looked small. As if unfamiliar with this kind of place, she crawled with a frightened look on her face. Take-You introduced us. This is my best friend Jin Ho-kong. Next to her is her girlfriend Ellie. Do you both know? Of course you know our faces. Me and Ellie greeted Min Ha-young. I heard a lot about Take-You. Hello. I heard that you are publishing a webtoon this time. Congratulations. Go thank you. Ellie spoke to me in a low voice. It's very cute. I get along well with Take-You. Okay. If Min Ha-young is similar to Take-You, Yang Hana is the exact opposite. For some reason I think a woman with personality suits Take-You. There is also Princess Enrique. I remembered Princess Enrique. Perhaps because of her young age and lively personality, she felt like a tomboy's little sister. She hasn't confirmed that she has a crush on her yet. Ellie smiled at me. Is that so? When I saw you two talking before, you seemed to have a good heart. That's because the princess is a fan of Lost Fantasy. Ellie snapped her fingers. Think about it. The person who revived that Lost Fantasy is Take-You. What woman would spend 3 hours alone with a man she doesn't like? Princess Enrique has an otaku tendency to the extent that she has cosplayed at a game show. He is also serving as a public relations model as he is working hard to grow the IT and game industries with the money that Norway earned from selling oil and gas. Well, if the two go well, will Otaku become the son-in-law of the King of Norway? Does this make sense? Even if Otaku is the epitome of a successful otaku, this is too successful. Young Hannah looked at Min Ha-young and said, "Oh, I see you here again. Nice to meet you." "Oh yes. Good morning. I heard from Takeu that you started a webtoon. Congratulations. Thanks to Takeu for helping me. He still watches every episode and gives advice." "That's right. Takeu has a very kind personality. I also started playing games, so I will ask Takeu a lot in the future." "But Ha-young, can't you play games if you're busy with serials?" "Oh no. I will start too. Writers usually get their inspiration from playing games." There was a friendly conversation with each other, smiling faces. Meanwhile, we greeted others. OTK Games officials from Japan arrived. President Ichikawa couldn't come because he was busy, but Hayashi Kondo, general music director of Lost Fantasy, came instead. He was a young man when he made his first series, but he soon became a middle-aged man. However, he is still leading the Lost Fantasy series music and sound effects with excellent skills. Taeyong grabbed his hand with both hands. "Thanks to the director's music, we played happily every series. Lost Fantasy fans will think so too." When team leader Jong Ki-hong interpreted, the music director of Kondo said with delight, "Thank you for saying that, Vice President. When I was making game music, I had no idea that I would perform with an orchestra like this, but thank you for giving me this great opportunity." The orchestra performance began. Scenes from each series appeared in the background to match the performance. From the days of 2D to the present, you can see the series' evolution along with the music. Except for the fact that it was game music, it was not much different from other concerts. At the end of each song, the audience erupted in enthusiastic applause. A solo piano song by Eiji Takahashi followed, and a famous singer sang the LF12 opening song in English. Even a choir appeared. When the voices of a choir like Requiem were added to the orchestra, I felt even majestic and tragic. Isn't this the LF7 battle theme? I remember being scolded by my mother as soon as I came home from school. Takeu nodded his head with a look wet with emotion. Right. You will hear this music like this. At the end of the 2-hour performance, people all stood up and gave a standing ovation. Everyone looked happy. It means that Takeu's planning intention that he will be able to give good memories to fans of the Lost Fantasy series is exactly right. Ellie also got up and clapped hard. I thought it was game music, but it was very moving. After watching the performance, I wanted to play a game for some reason. I thought for a moment and then said, there is a reason why a masterpiece is a masterpiece. Try LF10 first. It was the most touching story for me personally. What did you like about it? Even if you look at the graphics again now, it is not too far behind, and it is fun to develop characters because the development system is a license board. The story itself is inspiring. There is a reason why Jinhoo and Taikyu are close. Is that so? Ellie crossed her arms and said, I'm not good at that game, so Jinhoo will teach me. Lost Fantasy Concert, held at the newly opened Korea Music Center. The Korean Symphony Orchestra will hold a Lost Fantasy concert over 3 days at the newly renovated Korea Music Center. The concert originally scheduled for 1 concert was added 2 more at the request of fans, but all seats were sold out early. Considering the recent stagnation in the classical performance market, it is no exaggeration to say that this is an unusual box office hit. CEOs of the business world such as Seosung Group Chairman Im Jin-young, Salon Hotel President Lim Soo-mi, and CL Chemistry President Yang Ho-young also attended the event. Syncopation. After the performance, the audience praised it, saying, it was a fantastic meeting between the game and the orchestra. OTK Games said that as the Lost Fantasy series celebrated its 30th anniversary, it will continue to create and service various types of content for fans. I said while reading the article. It was completely successful. The media is well received. Music critics who were initially concerned also wrote a favorable column, saying that they had broken the boundaries of genres. What started out as a hobby for the vice president will be such a huge success. Taeyong nodded his head. In Japan, thousands of spectators flock to virtual idol performances. Cultural contents can create infinite value depending on how they are used. Well, from the perspective of Korea, which defines games as a serious addiction and a medium harmful to youth, it is a foreign country. So we do business in other countries. Read more at wuxiax.com. OTK Games has already established a new place in Detroit. Also, Korean game companies have started to relocate. In addition, several game companies have also considered the transfer. The startled government hastily set out to foster and support the industry. Until now, it was treated as one of the 4 major addictions and pointed at it, but suddenly it is an atmosphere of exultation as an export force. However, the reaction of the game industry was, "Have we been hit once or twice?" 2 days later, Chairman Im Jin-young came to the company. He looks quite tired. Dark circles are coming down to the bottom of the chin. "Are you okay?" "I slept a little last night." "Is there a lot of work these days?" Chairman Im Jin-young smiled mischievously. "It's not about work, it's about playing games." "Yes. After seeing the concert I was curious, so I played Lost Fantasy online. It was not easy because it was my first time playing the game. So, I asked a new employee to give me some training." Team was surprised. Oh, how was it? Is it fun?" "Yes. While selling computers and gaming laptops, I didn't really know why I played games, but now I think I understand. I leveled up a bit so I can do camel hunting." Taekyu clapped his hands with a moved expression. "Can I share some items?" "I will be grateful. As far as I know, there are quite a few of the company's employees. I heard that they form alliances with each other or play as a team, but I am thinking about whether to ask them to join the raid." "What is your job?" "It's a male paladin." Taeyong nodded his head. "I chose a job that requires the most attention to pronunciation. Still, the paladin is the best. Paladin is king. It really is a drip that only people who understand can understand. By the way, what kind of employees does the president participate in the engineering college? If Chairman Im Jin-young dies first because he doesn't give buffs or heals in time while running a boss mob raid, wouldn't all the employees be cut off? After all, a busy person would not have started Lost Fantasy online for no reason. There must be a good reason for taking the time to play the game yourself, right?" Chairman Im Jin-young said. "I decided to play the game. I would like to join Susong Electronics in OTK Games for Morpk development project." As everyone knows, Susong Electronics is a hardware manufacturer that makes and sells semiconductors, smartphones and computers. I wonder if it has anything to do with game development, but in reality it has a huge connection. To run the software properly, you will need the right hardware. At the words of Chairman Im Jin-young, Taekyu nodded his head. "Right. If the performance of the computer or console does not match, you cannot enjoy the game properly. Software and hardware influence each other and evolve together. Games have had a huge impact on this. In order to develop high-end CPUs, GPUs and semiconductors, there must be sufficient demand. Regardless of CPU performance, GPU speed, or how many gigabytes of RAM, it is rare for non-professional consumers like programmers to use up the hardware's performance. However, there is a moment when the performance of all parts is pushed to the limit, and it is time to play the game. High-end games require high-end hardware. Therefore, when a large online game is released, the demand for computer replacement or upgrade suddenly increases." Taekyu added an ambiguous explanation. "This is where the troubles of game developers begin. Are you going to make a game according to the average hardware specifications of the times, or are you going to make a high-end game with a purpose?" The Lost Fantasy series is famous for graphics that elevate the performance of the hardware to the limit every time. The world's first 3D RPG was also Lost Fantasy. Unlike consoles with the same performance, computer specifications vary from home to home. It should be enjoyed by as many people as possible, but the perfect graphic that transcends time is the identity of the Lost Fantasy series. In the end, what came out as a compromise was to allow users to choose between the low-spec version and the high-spec version to play according to the performance of the PC. But if you think there is something better about the human heart, you naturally want to go there. Chairman Im Jin-young said. Recently, the demand for computer replacement or upgrade is increasing. Lost Fantasy Online has given new vitality to the stagnant PC market. Drum prices have risen again. That's why gamers are raving about it now. It is unavoidable. Not only Susong Electronics but also SSK Nix and Micron are operating their factories at full capacity, but supply is not keeping up with demand. Since the beginning of last year, Many experts have been concerned that the semiconductor boom will end and prices will plummet. However, due to a chronic supply shortage, semiconductor prices are continuing to rise. Although Samsung Electronics and other semiconductor companies have decided to invest tens of trillions of dollars to expand their factories, it is expected that they will not be able to increase actual supply until the end of this year. When this happened, experts gently changed their words to say that the semiconductor supercycle is just beginning. The biggest reason for the misalignment is that demand for semiconductors has skyrocketed due to the advent of autonomous vehicles. Until now, Samsung Electronics' largest customer was NPL, which ordered displays and semiconductors. But now it has changed to Carlos, who orders electronic equipment. Samsung Electronics is enjoying the rewards as the first mover in this market. American, Chinese, and Japanese electronics companies also entered the electronics business in partnership with automakers, but they were not able to compete with Samsung Electronics in terms of performance and price. Vermorpk is a completely new type of game that has never been played before. In order to properly implement the game, you must have high-end hardware that cannot be compared with existing computers or consoles. I nodded. Internally, we have already decided to create a dedicated console. Shigeru Ichikawa announced that he would finish development within 3 years and release it. Until then, it is impossible to run it with a computer, even considering that the computer specifications will increase. There are many game consoles on the market so far. But making a dedicated console for just one game is uncommon. There are concerns that the risk is too great, but as long as the game is successful there is no problem. After seeing the concert and playing the game, I was convinced that it would be even more successful. If OTK Games succeeds, the VR console market will also be created. Samsung Electronics wants to challenge this market in cooperation with OTK Games. According to Yaji, the number of concurrent users of Vermorpk Sarana is 100 million. The number of people actually playing the game will be 4 or 5 times that number. Samsung Electronics' hardware manufacturing technology is the best in the world. What's even greater than selling 100 million smartphones every year is that they are producing those 100 million smartphones themselves. This is because vertical integration from parts to finished products is well established. From the standpoint of Samsung Electronics, VR consoles are highly likely to become a new cash cow following automotive electronic equipment. From our point of view, there is no better partner than Samsung Electronics. They already have experience working together, and cooperation from the development stage can greatly shorten the development period. So, I've been thinking about collaborating with Samsung Electronics for a long time. Perhaps Chairman Im Jin-young knows that I am thinking the same thing. Instead of arguing for nothing, I said it willingly. I wish you all the best in the future. We talked roughly about the contract. When the conversation was over, Chairman Im Jin-young stood up. There is a meeting of the presidents, so let's go back. Yes. Be careful. Chairman Im Jin-young asked Taekyu as if he had remembered something before going. But I have one question. Why is Paladin's attack power weaker than Warriors at the same level? If it's a Paladin, shouldn't it be stronger? That's because Warriors have their skills focused on attack and defense. Instead, the Paladin can also use buffs and heals when the level goes up. Undead and demons with different compatibility will get more deals. Grow well with Heal Tang. Chairman Im Jin-young asked with a serious expression. What is Hiltong? Healer plus tank. What level are you now? It's 7. Then it will be important from now on. Oh Taekyu's character development lecture lasted about 30 minutes, and Chairman Im Jin-young listened like a public servant who was driven to the edge of a cliff. As I was listening to the story next to me, I asked gently, "Didn't you say there was a boss meeting?" It was. Then Chairman Im Jin-young raised his head with a surprised expression and immediately called. Cancel today's president's meeting. Then he immediately looked at Taekyu and asked. So what did you say the Paladin had to do to advance to the hidden class? Just go to a meeting. Breaking news. Samsung Electronics cooperates with OTK Games to create VR consoles. Chairman Jin-young Lim declares that VR console will be developed as a new driving force for Samsung Electronics. Global IT companies also pay attention to VR games. Empel Gubble MS. He announced that he would increase investment in VR game contents. Game companies leaving Korea. Is the MMORPG market, which used to be a strong point, taken away by foreign countries? Government with both hands. What is the future of the Korean game industry blocked by regulations? When Seosong Electronics announced that it would form a VR console in partnership with OTK Games, the industry was shocked. The news was also talked about on the Lost Fantasy bulletin board and within the game. Can you Pilma? Wow. Seeing Song Electronics jumping in, it looks like a real Lost Fantasy is about to come out with a Vermorpk. Samjab, it must be really boring to see it in VR instead of on a monitor. Red Fairy Tale. Im Jin-young is also not an otaku? I also went to see a Lost Fantasy concert. Samjab. Heck, it must have been because he was close with Jin Hu Kong. John Salmino. Come on, let's focus on raids for now. Song Min-ho is quite famous in the game and he was the leader of this engineering school. It is a boss mob raid that mobilizes as many as 15 people. There are several conditions depending on the raid. In this case, 5 users of level 10 or lower should be included. I hate to be with the Jorups, but I can't help it. Boss mob raids aren't just about crowd-beating users. It can be said that it is a highly advanced brain game and mental labor in which a large number of people work together to defeat the enemy by matching their occupations, levels, and skills. Before the start, Song Min-ho gathered low-level users and had time to separately educate them. Professional terms such as tank, healer, one deal, close deal, buff, debuff, regen, and last hit were poured out. And finally, the Mosbob raid began. When a giant beast-type boss called Ogatura appeared, the characters started attacking all at once. The raid, which lasted about an hour, unfortunately ended in defeat. It's really sad that we lost by 1 point. Ogatu's dill meter had almost fallen to the floor. If you hit just 3 more hits, you still win. Low-level users would have been able to win if they did a little bit better, unlike other users who. Low-level users would have been able to win if they did a little bit better. Unlike other users who quickly logged out, the 8th level paladin remained and greeted the engineering members one by one. Oh. Even if this bastard did a little better. He didn't like the other low-level ones as well, but this paladin was particularly stupid. Sung Min-ho was angry and spoke to him. John Zalmino. I'm sorry, I can't really play the game. You know that's a hole, don't you know? Gene Dragon. Sorry. John Jalmino. Are you sorry? Haven't you done raids? Gene Dragon. Yes. This is my first raid. John Salmino. Are you middle school? High school? Gene Dragon. No. I go to work. John Salmino. Where do you go? Gene Dragon. I go to Seosong. John Salmino. I go to Seosong SB. Where do you work? Gene Dragon. I work at the Gangnam headquarters. John Salmino. The former? So, did you see the president too? He said he sometimes eats with the staff at the cafeteria because he has a coffin. Gene Dragon. Well, I am that kind of president. John Salmino. Uncle, are you crazy? Gene Dragon. Hard to believe, but it is true. It is so nice to meet our company employees here. I wish you all the best in the future. John Salmino. Ha, are you kidding me? It's totally crazy. If you're I'm Jin Young, I'll be Kong Jin Hu. Gene Dragon. It's real. Why would I lie? I don't lie except when called to the National Assembly. John Salmino. I am the manager of Seosong SB Song Min-ho. If you are M. Jin Young, come visit me. I'll buy you some rice and give you some raid training. Gene Dragon, I see. I'll see you tomorrow. John Salmino. I really shouldn't be talking. Next day. Seosong SB Song Min-ho went to work and was working hard. However, just before lunchtime the company suddenly went into chaos. Read more at wuxiax.com. What's up? The president has come. What? Seosong SB's headquarters are located in Yongin. The already busy chairman comes down here about once or twice a year. But today it suddenly came down without any notice. Even the boss is absent. You wouldn't have known that the president was on a business trip. So what did you come here for? While he was thinking, Chairman Im Jin-young entered the company under the guidance of Executive Vice President Cheol Myung Kim. The staff stood up at once and greeted each other. Chairman Im Jin-young, who was looking around the office, stopped in front of a male employee. Are you manager Song Min-ho? Sung Min-ho said in surprise. Yes. My name is Miho Sung. It is an honor to meet you, Chairman. Nice to meet you. We meet again here. I'm sorry about yesterday. Chairman Im Jin-young's words made him bewildered. Yes. What are you talking about? Didn't you tell me to come see you? Me. Chairman Im Jin-young laughed and spoke in a playful tone. Have you already forgotten? This is sad. Think carefully. You talked to me yesterday. Manager Sung Min-ho thought desperately. No, we've never met. What do you mean? At that moment something popped into my mind. Stand please. That paladin? As he spoke he thought to himself. Oh no. It's never going to happen. It turns out that the paladin in the game found out that our president never happens in real life. But it actually happened. That's right, John Salmino. Huh. So the ID was Gene Dragon. Why is the CEO of Seosung Group doing a Lost Fantasy? Chairman Im Jin-young put his arm around Sung Min-ho's shoulder, who seemed to have lost his soul, and said in a friendly way. Come on, Manager Sung Min-ho said that he lives for rice, so let's get some delicious food and get some raid training. I took the Carlos AD4 and headed to Korea University. The self-driving electric vehicle quietly drove down the road. I sat in the driver's seat and looked at the portal through the display on the dashboard. Min Ha-young's webtoon was on the main page along with the Lost Fantasy commercial. Seems to be quite popular. Another issue related to this is that Chairman Im Jin-young visited Seosung SB employee whom he met at the game. Rumors of this incident spread quickly and even went up to articles, and game sites were turned upside down. Wow. The jorap in the game was the president. Haha, this is the real Hyenpai. This is the most absurd thing I've seen this year. This was also reported on CNN. Haha. So, was he cut from the company? You're not some idiot. Would you cut an employee with something like that? We just had a good meal and parted ways. I heard that Jin-young Lim asked questions about the game while he was eating. The rice was also bought by Im Jin-young. Jin-young is cool. The more you look at it, the more genuine it seems. I wish my boss was like this too. No, all of this is a work of art. Don't be fooled by the Seosung Group's manipulation of public opinion. The real thing is very pretentious, and the people say that it is known as a stick. That's right. Rest Im Jin-young. I don't know if it was aimed or not, but the reaction was generally favorable. Thanks to this, it became a publicity for Susong Electronics' jump into VR console development. By the way, I didn't really feel it when I was driving, but it's definitely comfortable since I don't drive. Even if the road is blocked, there is nothing to be annoyed about, and you can roll the seat back. When I went to the car page, I was filled with test drives about Raven. Unlike Benz, BMW, Audi, and Lexus, which have a premium image, the image of a silver car is good for its cost-effectiveness. The technology can catch up, but the image is hard to catch up with. Even if a cheaper car comes out, the demand for Mercedes-Benz or Lexus does not decrease easily, but the demand for Silversung cars decreases immediately. In a situation where it was already behind Chinese cars in price competitiveness and Japanese and German cars in performance, when the PAS airbag recall broke out, the sales volume of Unsung cars fell by more than 50%. The drop in sales volume and image decline also overlapped, and there was even a forecast that it would be difficult to recover. However, after the release of the self-driving electric vehicle Raven, a turning point was created. As it is said that bad breath remover invented bad breath, new technology creates discomfort. Because of this, once advanced technology never retreats. A person who has used a cell phone cannot return to a pager, and a person who has used a smartphone cannot return to a feature phone. Once you ride an autonomous electric vehicle, you feel uncomfortable with other cars. After the delivery of customers began, word of mouth from people who had ridden Raven spread, and reservations rushed even more. Even though the Gunsan electric vehicle industrial complex is fully operating the factory with the lights on for 24 hours, the waiting volume has gradually increased. There are two main directions for future cars. An electric vehicle in terms of hardware and an autonomous vehicle in terms of software. Of course, the latter is the more powerful of the two. Electric vehicles only change the way they charge, but self-driving cars change the way we live. In autonomous driving, the driver does not have to worry about driving, so he can do other things during that time. Therefore, the war over vehicle displays is in full swing. In the past, information necessary for driving such as navigation and rear-view camera was mainly shown. But now, like a computer or smartphone, various contents can be provided through the display of the dashboard. Global conglomerates cannot miss this huge market. Gubble and Enpol, which are already bisecting the smartphone OS market, have come in contact with several good conditions. If they link their OS with the vehicle, they will share user data and share profits. The stability of the OSs of the two companies has already been verified, and a huge number of applications are registered in the store. As long as you accept the offer, you can start using the content right away. In fact, several automakers such as Volvo and Renault-Nissan-Mitsubishi Alliance have accepted the proposal. However, Daryl's position was firm. As a software developer in the first place, he was more aware of the importance of the platform than anyone else. Once it starts to become dependent, it is irreversible. Karis already has a dominant position in the autonomous driving market. Is it necessary to share the market with infinite potential with the IT dinosaurs? Karis runs its own OS and has tried to attract various third parties. Although there is a barrier to entry that requires developing a separate application, many companies have already hoped for a partnership. In the past, cars were made once and sold. But now, like a smartphone, you can periodically update the operating system and add new functions. In conjunction with Samsung Electronics smartphone, video calls can be made with the vehicle display and built-in camera, and a function to recommend or make a reservation for restaurants, charging stations, and tourist destinations is also included. Faceit has developed an algorithm that tracks users' movement and recommends content they may like. Among the various contents, education contents are receiving the most attention. Traveling for a certain amount of time when commuting to and from work, and a closed car is the best environment to study. In addition, electric vehicles produce almost no noise or vibration. Experts also predicted that adult education content will grow explosively in line with the spread of autonomous vehicles. Karis is further developing an unmanned vehicle without a steering wheel, accelerator, or brake. The absence of the steering wheel means that the interior of the vehicle can be designed in a variety of ways. You can ride it lying down or you can ride with the passengers facing each other. However, technological advances do not necessarily lead to good results. Ride-sharing and ride-sharing services are growing explosively, and global car sales have already started to grow negatively since last year. In addition, as the engine and mission, which accounted for the largest portion of existing auto parts, disappeared due to the increase in the production of electric vehicles, the number of production workers decreased significantly. In the auto industry, there was a strong job cut fever. Following the shutdown of the Gunsan plant, GM closed 6 plants in the United States and decided to cut 20,000 jobs. Volkswagen started to lay off 10,000 workers under the guise of improving management efficiency, and Toyota also considered plant closures and layoffs. It's not just car company employees who are losing their jobs. Those who work in the transportation industry in the United States are already looking for other jobs. Although Karis is leading the way right now, there are only 5 companies that are expected to release a similar level of self-driving car within the next 3 years. And if the period is extended to 5 years, the number will increase to 10. Experts predict that the replacement rate for autonomous vehicles will exceed 50% within the next decade. If this happens, the number of traffic accidents will be reduced to less than 1/10 of what it is today, and the jobs of the police and insurance company workers who deal with traffic accidents, repair shops that fix broken cars, and even doctors and nurses who treat traffic accident patients will be threatened. Unemployment is a hopeless event for individuals and causes unrest in society as a whole. Brexit in the UK and Yellow Vest protests in France were also caused by the explosion of dissatisfaction among the people due to unemployment and lack of employment. In order for our country not to do that, the politicians will have to work with schools and businesses to prepare measures in advance. As always, the National Assembly has a fierce confrontation between the ruling and opposition parties, and the government is holding hands. I went into the office of the head of the Department of Business Administration. Professor Myung-Joon Kim smiled and said as soon as he saw me, "I'm really glad that the Lost Fantasy concert went well. It was a great opportunity for us as well. The head of the instrumental music department is very talkative. Thanks to you, my family is at peace." "I am happy to hear that." Kawaman Seseong. What in the world is more important than family peace? Cultural business plays a big role in raising the image beyond just profit or enjoyment. So, large corporations are providing various support. It builds and operates its own concert hall and sponsors exhibitions, operas, and musicals. A certain president loved Korean traditional music so much that, whenever there was a traditional music event, he forcibly mobilized employees and the head of the agency. People don't know it well, but we are also working hard to support the cultural industry. First of all, we are investing in various dramas and movies through EDM Entertainment, and the vice president is working hard to promote subculture. As a result, the image among otakus has improved greatly. Is this why they are called Otaku Company? Professor Myung-Jun Kim said while drinking coffee. Professor Pil-hyun Park, I want you to say thank you. What? Professor Pil-hyun Park is a professor in the Department of Automotive at Korea University. He had been taken care of by the PAS airbag crisis the other day. In gratitude for his work at that time, he donated 10 AD3 and AD4 and 10 Ravens to Korea University, some of which will be used for educational purposes such as disassembly and assembly in the automobile department, and the rest will be used as car sharing for Korean university students. Is expected. Not long ago I met professors from the Department of Automobile and they all lamented. I've been teaching the same thing for decades and now I can't keep up with the changes. The curriculum has been revised all at once from this semester. Instead of an engine and emission, they teach you about a motor and a battery. It is the automobile department that immediately caught fire, but the professors of other departments have a lot of trouble. Some departments will probably disappear in a few years. As the industry changes, the talent required changes. Jobs that were promising until yesterday may disappear overnight. In order not to fall behind the times, education must also keep pace. Isn't business administration okay? Professor Myung-Jun Kim nodded his head. Then the more the times like this, the more important management becomes. No matter how much technology advances, isn't it a human being to deal with it in the end? Do you know that your story is included in recent economic and management major books? Yes. What are you so excited about? When I went to the bookstore, I heard that there were not only 1 or 2 books sold by Jin-Hoo Kong. Still, the majors are different. I mean, students learn my case. What else do you have to learn? As the professor said, the economics and management corners of bookstores are lined with books with my name on them. Invest like the Gong Jin-Hoo. If you read this book, the Gong Jin-Hoo, even at the time, the Gong Jin-Hoo Investment Perfect Analysis, Imitate the Gong Jin-Hoo, etc. I was bored, so I skimmed through anything and it was really well written about bullshit. What's really surprising is that even though you can invest like me just by reading one book, they actually write and sell books instead of doing that. Professor Myung-Jun Kim said proudly. As you can see, the ranking of Korean universities in the world university competitiveness has risen tremendously. Among them, our business department is unique. Transfer students are also lining up. Have you ever heard of that? Read more at wuxiax.com. What are you talking about? Princess Enrique decided to come to our school this time. I see. Enrique. Yes. I nodded in surprise. Is the Norwegian princess at our school? Why? Professor Myung-Jun Kim asked me. You didn't know? I thought I'd know because I've met you before. Originally, I was planning to go to MIT to study abroad, but they said they changed it to Korea. I applied for transfer to the engineering school, and all the procedures were completed. Are you a transfer student, not an exchange student? Transfer. Exchange students study for a certain period of time and return to their original school, but transfer students receive a diploma from this school. In the case of the engineering school, most classes are conducted in English, so there will be no problem in listening to the lectures. It is common for royals to go abroad to study. However, most go to the United States or advanced European countries, but rarely choose Korea. Why did you choose Korea University over MIT? Isn't it because Korea is rapidly growing in future industries such as automobiles, semiconductors, batteries, and games? It is, but regardless of whether the government is good at economic policies or not, Korean conglomerates are entering new industries and competing fiercely. In the memory semiconductor field, Seosung Electronics outperformed its competitors with a super gap strategy, and CL Chemical's Seosung SB and SSK Innovation have production systems for OTK batteries. Yunsong Motors mass-produced the second self-driving electric vehicle after Karis, and game companies one after another joined OTK Games for more development project. Previously, there were many criticisms that the Korean economy was too dependent on semiconductors, but now it is showing prominence in various fields. In particular, batteries are attracting attention to the extent that they are said to be the second semiconductor. It is needless to say how great an achievement Professor Ho-min Kim has accomplished. Isn't that also the purpose of building connections? You and Professor Ho-min Kim are all from Korea University. However, these days, Korean university students are doing very well in overseas employment. There are a lot of kids who go to places like Gubble NPL and Face Note. I remembered Princess Enrique who was babbling about the game with her eyes shining. Surely. Isn't this related to Oh Take You? After work I headed to Hanamdong with Eli and Yuri. Because I have an evening appointment with Chairman Ryu Cheoljun and Vice Chairman Shin Byung-do. Eli said looking forward to it. Thanks to Yuri I have such a great opportunity, she said. They are both difficult to meet. Yuri shook her head. The father and the uncle meet the CEO and the older sister. You've been begging me for a while to make room for you. Although it is not well known due to the nature of private equity funds, Chairman Ryu Cheoljun is a legend in the Korean investment world. Perhaps without me and Take You, wouldn't my name remain as the most famous Korean investor? However, the fact that he is Korean is a bit subtle. This is because Chairman Cheoljun Ryu obtained U.S. citizenship while studying abroad. Of course he did not go to the military. He was born in Korea, married a Korean and lives in Korea, but technically he is a Korean American. This aspect is similar to RCK Brothers. It is a self-proclaimed Korean native private equity fund. Its headquarters is located in Korea, and it invests a lot in Korea, but most of the investment is made up of foreign capital. Well, it is difficult and meaningless to determine the nationality of capital. Even in Seosung Electronics, half of the stock is held by foreigners. Arrived by car is a small restaurant with only a few tables. The two who arrived first were very happy to see us. Ellie lowered her head and said, "Thank you for inviting me to dinner tonight." Chairman Ryu Cheoljun waved his hands. "No. We thank you for coming out like this. Ads are always good." Vice Chairman Shin Byung-do shook hands and said, "I don't know if Yuri is doing well." "Don't worry, one person is doing enough." At my words he looked relieved. We said goodbye and then sat down. Since we had booked the whole store we were the only customers, so there was no need to notice other people. The menu is beef stew, turkey, French fries and wine. Chairman Ryu Cheoljun said with a smile. When he was studying in the United States he slapped every meal with a sandwich. I bought a baguette my height and a loaf of ham at Walmart and made 3 sandwiches in the morning, ate one right away, packed 2 and went to school. After studying like that he went through Golden Gate and Canline Group to establish RCK Brothers. We ate and drank wine and talked. The menu itself feels like home-style American food, but the wines are top-notch. By the way, both are famous as wine lovers. Vice Chairman Shin Byung-do said while drinking wine. When I was young I didn't know why I was drinking wine, but after tasting it a few times with this friend, I fell in love with it. Other alcohols can taste just like a month or two, but wines have been drinking for over 10 years and I still don't know. That's why it seems that the end of alcohol is called wine. Yuri licked her lips slightly. Chit, drinking every day is a problem. When I tell them to stop drinking they claim that wine is good for preventing heart disease. And that's when you drink in moderation. The conversation naturally shifted to investment. Chairman Ryu Cheoljun stuck out his tongue and said, "This time I saw him hand in hand with Rosatom and invested in TWR and hit his knee. I wondered why I hadn't thought of it sooner. I don't know yet whether I will succeed or not." Isn't the investment because there is a great chance of success even if you say that? Even if it fails, I think it was a successful investment as Karas and Facit entered Russia with the favor of President Vysotsky. I have no idea where to invest again next time. Do you have any investment ideas in mind? I do not know. Actually, I don't know either. In general, it is common to invest in a specific industry or company after thoroughly analyzing it with interest. However, since I invest when I see foreknowledge from time to time, it will seem like I am making an investment decision improvised with inconsistency in the selection of the target. On the other hand, RCK Brothers pursues a typical private equity method that considers thorough company analysis, market analysis and even exit. Yuri said as if giving a pin cup. Can you tell me something like that? Chairman Ryu Cheoljun scratched his head. Ouch. I tried to get information out of this while drunk, but I failed. We burst out laughing. I looked at the two of them and thought, will Take You and I be like that in 20 years or so? I drank both bottles of wine and opened another bottle. Unlike Vice Chairman Shin Byung-do, who was smart, Chairman Ryu Cheoljun's face turned a little red. I have felt it for a long time, but recently industrial change is accelerating. There will probably be big changes in the Korean business world, which was like stagnant water in a few years. Chairman Shin Byung-do continued. Come to think of it, the recent GH Group situation is not very good. The GH Group? Ellie explained. Jessica said it once before. Still, all PF related to GHENC has been stopped, and some have begun to recover their investment. Hearing this, I think I've heard similar stories. The GH Group's reordering ranks around 15th. The group's market cap is around 30 trillion won. It may be like in Korea, but from our point of view, it is a level that we do not need to worry about. However, the business areas do not overlap. But I have a personal connection with this one. It's not a big deal. The lover I dated when I was a college student married the grandson of the GH Group chairman. Now she has a baby and is living well. In any case, the reason that the situation became difficult is that each affiliate failed to do business in a row. GH Oil is the largest affiliate of the GH Group. GH Oil is Korea's second largest oil refining company after SSK Innovation. In the oil refining industry, profits are proportional to the selling price. Therefore, the higher the oil price, the higher the profit. However, a few years ago the low oil price continued and profits continued to decline. There was a temporary rebound due to damage to Big One and North Sea oil field facilities, but it was not enough to break the flow of low oil prices. In addition, as the sales volume of electric vehicles increases, the profits of refiners are bound to decrease, and countermeasures have to be taken accordingly. SSK Innovation invested the money it earned from the oil refining business into batteries. On the other hand, GH Oil established a subsidiary called GH Green and actively invested in polysilicon and solar modules. Until then, the solar field seemed more promising than the battery. The world seemed to be paying attention to renewable energy, and along with wind power, solar power came into the spotlight. However, the related technology did not develop as quickly as expected, and the unit cost of power generation was higher than that of other developments. So the reality was that the entire industry was dependent on government subsidies. The biggest problem is the offensive by Chinese companies. As with all industries, China is the world's largest market for renewable energy. The Chinese government and local governments focused on subsidizing their own enterprises. Chinese solar companies backed by the government's support poured out low-cost modules and panels, and GH Green's products lost price competitiveness. The same thing happened in the battery market, but the global demand for batteries increased significantly due to the expansion of electric vehicles. Crucially, Professor Haman Kim succeeded in developing the next-generation battery OTK battery, and Korean companies were able to outsmart Chinese companies with their technological prowess. The stock price soared after SSK Innovation entered into a partnership with OTK company to produce OTK batteries. But despite the oil price rebound, the stock price of GH Oil has been declining day by day. To sum up, the battery business invested by SSK Innovation is doing well, while the solar power business invested by GH Oil is doomed. Soon we will sell our subsidiaries and get out of the solar business. It will be difficult to cover the deficit any longer. It seems that they have already had quite specific discussions with the Chinese consortium. It's better to do it better to avoid a bigger loss. When the official announcement is made, the stock price of GH Oil will rebound significantly. This information is not easily accessible to the general public. After all, you have a lot of connections in the financial world, and the information is quick as you have a strong backbone. GH Oil is going to waste the money invested, but the bigger problem is construction. Korean chaebols especially like construction companies. For a leading conglomerate in Korea, it is difficult to find a group without a construction company as an affiliate, and they want to acquire a group without a construction company. Not to mention Susong Group and SSK Group. The Unsung Motor Group, which spun off from the Unsung Group, took over Unsung Construction, the parent company of the Unsung Group. So, why do chaebols love construction companies so much? Although there are some characteristics of the Korean economy that has grown through civil works through political and economic cooperation, the biggest reason is that there is no industry as easy to make slush funds as construction companies. In construction there are many daily workers in subcontracting, so it is easy to extort money from wages or incidental expenses or to manipulate account books. So for a long time the president has been loved as a source of slush funds. However, apart from rising house and land prices, the recent construction industry itself is on a downward trend. Nevertheless, GHENC carried out aggressive management with the goal of being number one in Korea. By acquiring small and medium-sized local construction companies, He grew in size and entered various infrastructure projects as well as redevelopment and reconstruction projects. I also received many benefits during the Park Si-hyung administration. At that time, there were many public projects to revitalize the construction industry. Any government will do everything possible to boost the growth rate. Of these, the simplest method is to stimulate the construction economy. Once large-scale reconstruction or civil engineering work is done, the number of employed persons increases and the growth rate soars in an instant. Therefore, whether conservative or progressive, we have no choice but to cling to real estate. But after the change of government, the number of public projects ordered by the government has greatly decreased. Read more at wuxiax.com. It's not that this government has refrained from artificially stimulating the construction industry, but that there is nothing to do because the previous administration has already carried out all the public projects. The public works also took a hit, but the local real estate sector continued to stagnate for several years. Not long ago, more than half of the apartment complexes sold by GHENC in the provinces were unsold. Vice Chairman Shin Byung-do said as if pathetic. It's like I've grown in size without reading the changes of the times at all. In the hopes of expanding overseas business, a large-scale public project was conducted in the Philippines, but the local SPC that was supposed to pay the money went bankrupt. If the Philippine government is not held accountable, the transaction could be suspended due to capital encroachment. When we support construction to save construction, the situation of other affiliates is not very good. So what should I do? The GH Group will also have to make a decision soon. I thought for a moment and then said, are you going to revive construction by selling a net affiliate or sell construction? When a company becomes insolvent and management becomes difficult, they consider selling it. However, a dilemma arises in this case. A company that is insolvent is that no one wants to buy it. So if you want to sell it, you have to sell it at a bargain price. That is why, on the other hand, there are cases of selling unprofitable affiliates. I remembered such a case. Yongjin Group sold Yongjin Kiway. Yongjin Kiway is a company that manufactures and rents water purifiers and household appliances. It accounted for more than half of Yongjin Group's net profit, and the financial structure and cash flow were good. It was Yongjin Construction that had a problem at the time, but there was no one to buy it when it was put on the market. Therefore, Yongjin Group had no choice but to sell Yongjin Kiway. Ellie clapped her hands. Oh right. It was. Chairman Ryu Cheoljun and Vice Chairman Shin Byung-do looked at each other and smiled. At that time, RCK Brothers invested 1.2 trillion won to acquire Yongjin Kiway from Yongjin Group. And after 6 years, it was sold again to Yongjin Group, leaving a profit of over 1 trillion won. From fundraising to deal sourcing, M&A and exit. It was an investment like the standard of a private equity fund that could only appear in textbooks, said Yuri. The Kumho Group had taken over Daewoo ENC forcibly in the past, and the entire group was in a workout. Vice Chairman Shin Byung-do nodded. Even though there were precedents from Yongjin Group and Kumho Group, we didn't learn anything. Selling construction would push GH Group's financial rankings out of the top 20. Given the current business structure, it is unclear whether the company will re-establish itself in the future. Chairman Ryu Cheoljun said while drinking wine. It is right that companies that keep up with changes grow bigger and those that don't are expelled. If you think about it, the Korean business world has been occupied by people without skills for too long. The drinking party continued until late. Chairman Ryu Cheoljun said to me before we parted. When I put down the head of the Conline Group and said I was leaving, everyone around me stopped me. Although I am proud of it, it was like a miracle that I went up there as an Asian in the heart of global finance. After establishing RCK Brothers independently, I had to start everything from scratch. At that time I was also young Byung-do and I had the spirit to try and face it. When I see CEO Kang Jin-hoo now, I remember those days. Pyo Kang Jin-hoo and Vice President Tae-kyo are younger than me at the time. From now on, the two of us will usher in a new era. I said holding his hand. Thank you very much today. Then see you next time. Chairman Ryu Cheoljun was sent first, and then Vice Chairman Shin Byung-do and Yuri got into the car. I'll see you at work tomorrow, Sue. Huh. Be careful and go in. We also got into the back seats. Both were drunk, so a bodyguard sat in the driver's seat. Even if it's a self-driving car, if you drink and sit in the driver's seat, it's still drunk driving under the law. Ellie rested her head on my shoulder. The drunkenness made her face a little red, and with every breath she breathed a faint scent of wine. For a moment she felt like kissing her. Ellie said with her eyes closed. Yuri is also cute. I know, right? Do you remember when we went to Korea University together? There Jean, who happened to run into her ex-girlfriend. I laughed bitterly. Absolutely. Back then, just like now, Ellie was by my side. Ellie grabbed my hand. Did you like it a lot? Even without a subject you could tell who you were talking to. I nodded. Of course. Now it's all a thing of the past. It is common for men and women to meet, break up and meet other people. Is one or two celebrities divorced or remarried? Some may say that I lost a woman to Go Junhyung. Of course no one can say that in front of me, but that's just a man's point of view. A woman simply chooses the person she likes. It doesn't matter if I met him before breaking up with me or after we broke up. There's no law that says she shouldn't date another guy until she breaks up with a girl she has a girlfriend. The reason Ellie suddenly brought up the story of CNA was probably because the story of GH Construction came up earlier. Aren't you worried? Not at all. I'm not really worried about the chaebol. People tend to feel more sorry for the downfall of a high-status person, whether it was the royal family of a ruined country or the collapsed chaebol. However, it is a tradition in Korea that companies fail but chaebols do not. Even if the entire GH group is decomposed, there will be no problem for the owner's family to live on. There is another important issue. Regardless of the outcome of the sale or rehabilitation, the winds of restructuring will be raging. I said with a bitter smile. If you have to worry, you have to worry about the employees who might lose their jobs. The insolvency of GH was more serious than the market expected. The bankruptcy of SPC in the Philippines, which placed an order for the business in a situation where the financial situation deteriorated due to unreasonable expansion and unsold housing, was fatal. In the financial world, there have been rumors that trading may be suspended in the stock market. No construction company runs a business with their own money. Financial support such as loans and guarantees is essential for construction. If the construction company becomes insolvent, the client is reluctant to place an order for fear that the construction will be stopped in the middle, and the subcontractors want to receive an advance payment for fear of not being paid. And this further exacerbates the flow of money. In fact, rumors circulated that the financial situation was not good, and GH recently suffered a lot from being pushed by other large construction companies to win orders for the reconstruction of Seoul. Within the GH group, fierce discussions took place over the solution. However, it was not easy to reverse the situation. It has considered issuing bonds to raise funds, but corporate bond yields have already soared close to 15%. Under such circumstances, additional corporate bonds were not needed to be successful. There is a way to lower interest rates by providing guarantees from other affiliates, but shareholders are sure to oppose it. As the fact that there is insolvency is known, it will be difficult to receive the right price if you sell GH now and put it on the market. However, it is not possible to sell GH Oil, which is the group's representative affiliate and main business. A plan to revive construction by selling other affiliates was also considered, but foreign shareholders of GH Holdings, the holding company of the GH Group, expressed their opposition. President Ko Jin-kwang ran in every direction to prevent GH Construction from falling over. It is clear what the fate of the acquired companies will be. In the acquired company, the first thing to change is the CFO, Chief Financial Officer, of the acquired company. It is to grasp the flow of money and hold the money line. All the original executives are cut off and a new person comes in. Ko Jin-kwang was born into a chaebol family and has lived as a chaebol throughout his life. And he joined GH Construction and took over the company all too naturally. In that way, the company he devoted his life to may be taken away from his hands. A chaebol that lost management rights is no longer a chaebol. Even so, there will be no problem in making a living, but they cannot enjoy the status and honor they have now. This was like a disgrace. President Ko Jin-kwang did not give up hope. It is negotiating with the Philippine government to receive payment, and the unsold housing units will be resolved over time. If you can survive the current financial crunch, there will be a sufficient chance of recovery. No, a good opportunity was already in front of you. The United States is steadily working on restoration projects in San Francisco and Silicon Valley. It is the largest construction project in the United States, taking 10 years to fully recover. As long as you are confident that you will receive as many orders as possible here, You will be able to persuade your creditors, and then won't you be able to avoid the worst case of court management or forced sale? All the construction companies around the world were working hard behind the scenes to win as many projects as possible. An OTK company is in charge of that business. If you can get help from Jin Hukong, you can solve the problem. The problem is that the entire GH group has no particular contact with him. Fortunately, Ko Jingguang's third son was a senior in the same school as Kong Jinhu. For now we have no choice but to look forward to it. Go Junhyong remembered Kong Jin, who he had met before. When he was in college he was a junior who didn't really care. But so much has changed in the past few years. Unlike the GH group, which is losing its group market cap and its business rankings are declining, OTK company has grown into the world's largest company. Recently the Korean economy was virtually driven by OTK company. If OTK company hadn't cooperated with South Korean conglomerates such as Susong Electronics and Unsung Motors, Korea's growth rate would have been 2% lower than it is now. It may not seem like much, but Korea's GDP is $1.7 trillion. Of this, 2% alone is almost 40 trillion won. The impact on the national economy is that much, not to mention the company. It is only a few times that Go Junhyong met Kong Jinhu at school. But his appearance is definitely memorable. Because he was the former lover of Sienna, who is now his wife. But now I am in a position where I have to say sorry. It felt like a joke of fate. Go Junhyong sighed and muttered. He said, should it be a relationship or a bad relationship? While he was at work, an unexpected person came to the company. When I heard the name I pondered for a while. Should I meet you? Taekyu, who was playing Lost Fantasy online on his way to work, jumped up from his seat. What are you thinking about? We need to see this right now. It looks like an interesting spectacle has arisen. I asked absurdly. Is this fun? Fun. Taekyu nodded his head as if it was natural to my question. Fun. So let's go see each other. Everyone, this is the personality of the vice president of OTK company. I went down to the meeting room together to listen to Taekyu's wishes. There was a young man in a suit. A tall, handsome face. His name is Go Junhyung. He is the third son of the president of GH Construction, and to me he is a senior in business administration at Korea University. And he is also Sienna's husband. It was the first time we met at school the other day. I rarely go to places like business meetings, and since the business area is different I never met outside. There's nothing particularly bad about it, but that doesn't mean I don't have good memories either. So, maybe they didn't think about seeing each other for a while. He bowed his head and said hello. It's been a while, Seo Kong Jinhu. It's a respectful attitude, different from what I was comfortable talking about at school. The situation and position have changed since then, so it is natural. It's been a really long time. Nice to meet you. Taekyu greeted him warmly. Good morning. This is Taekyu. You are welcome today. I've heard a lot about you, Vice President. We said goodbye and sat down. The secretary served drinks. I asked him, what did you come here for? Read more at wuxiax.com. There is no other job in Korea that has the will to succeed in the family business as much as the chaebol. Go Junhyong also joined GH Construction to succeed in the family business and is learning the company's work diligently. Currently his position is managing director. The company will be inherited by the older brother, but he will be able to receive at least one smaller subsidiary under him. Then GH Construction will drive hard work through insider trading. Of course, this was only when GH Construction was in good shape. Given the current climate, it is highly likely that they will be sold soon. If this happens, the owner family, including him, will have to step down from their positions over management rights. Well, since my grandfather is the chairman of the GH group anyway, he will do anything. The most useless thing in the world is to worry about the chaebol. Go Junhyung said with a dark expression. To start with, I want to get help. What help? I've heard that Arcade has won the urban design for Palo Alto and Redwood seat for the San Francisco and Silicon Valley reconstruction projects. GH Construction would like to participate in that regard. Again, I said I'd see you for this. It was somewhat expected. As the final design has not yet been passed, it is not a project that is currently underway. A contractor will be selected at a later date. But if CEO Kong Jinhu comes forward, I think there will be a way. An MOU, not a formal contract, is sufficient. Are you trying to convince creditors with that and then try to save the company by cleaning up insolvent businesses in the meantime? When I did not answer, Go Junhyung asked, "Do you have any requirements?" Without thinking for too long, I just cut it off. "No. It's up to Arcot to decide. OTK Company is an investment company. In principle, it is not possible to get involved in management as much as possible if the company that received the investment asks for help first. There is nothing else I can do to help. Sorry for not being of any help. If you start to receive solicitations from Korean construction companies in this way, there will be no end to it, and there will definitely be a backstory." The late Junhyung bit his lip and shook his body slightly. It looks like his self-esteem has been severely damaged. But what do you do? Negotiations must also be fair. However, this is actually a one-sided request for help. The purpose of the company is to make a profit. If it's not for our benefit, we don't need to help. Considering the conditions GHENC is proposing, other construction companies will be able to offer it enough. Thinking so, Go Junhyung asked with a trembling voice, "Is it because of CNL?" Huh. What kind of bullshit is this?